Oh, take.
You go on to talk about fairy lore and the deep history and a lot of the individual encounters, and you use a phrase to refer to them as the administrative spirits of the earth. And I like that. And we've done many previous shows about folding UFOs, Bigfoot, aliens, fairies, all this kind of stuff into a Fortean box that is kind of all parts of what Jacques Vallée might call a meta system, that they are more related than a lot of researchers through the 90s and early 2000s would have had you believe. And I think that is the right way to think about these things. But sometimes you look at a system or a process in nature and its logic is genius. For example, trees make fruits. Fruits taste good to other mobile creatures. Fruits contain the seeds to spread themselves outward. Its symbiotic nature is evident. The genius of that system is right there. But I struggle to see the logic in such a system as is being described when it comes to non-local memories and this custodian class of supernatural beings. The logic behind why this is part of reality is missing for me. I don't know if you can help me at all.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. What is the logic of it? There's a few different ways to answer that. First of all, there might not be a logic as we can perceive it. There may just be no logic that we can process as humans, that we can't make it make sense, and that might be the point, to point out the limitations of that process, of that one toolkit, so that we don't get overly attached to it. It's a way to kind of keep us from becoming too concretized, too materialized in this life. Like a reminder, like that's not what you are. That's just a limb that you use to feel out the world around you. Your logic. It's just something there to help you. A way of mapping the world or graphing it or modeling it and making sense of things, but it's not the ultimate reality. And another way to answer it would be like, who sees fairies? Who are these people that most often see fairies? It's the children, insane people.
I've lost my marble.
And shamans. Those are the people that are most usually seeing them, especially as like a full spectral, tactile apparition. They're seeing the whole thing. They're seeing it looks to them like a physical being. And there's a clue there. You have with the child, they're almost prelingual, right? They haven't adopted the semiotics, the signs and symbols of the dominant culture, the sort of hierarchical order of perception that exists, like that's enforced upon you. They're innocent, right? And the shaman, one of his goals is to regain that innocence, to reject given meaning, and sort of exist outside of that, the sorcery of language. He creates his own sorcery of language. He attacks things from a more, what I call the sort of super paranoid angle, where he just doesn't take anything that's given. So you could think of the shaman as, in a sense, post-lingual, right? Or able to enter into a post-lingual state for a certain amount of time and perceive the world as it is. I've talked about the electromagnetic ecology before. You can call it the ethereal ecology. And I think the child probably sees the world with more dimensionality, more fullness. So yeah, the world is spooky. The world doesn't actually make sense, and that's not what it's there for. It's not there to make sense for you, right? That's just your logic circuits are there to help you, live your life, construct society. Like everything, the example you gave about the logic of the tree, the genius of the tree, all of that's involved in your, to use a sort of vulgar metaphor, your life support system, right? That's there to keep you alive. And and all of those things are obviously logical to you as a human organism, carrying out the business of living and reproducing and building civilizations and all the things that humans like to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that limit, that's like the rest, that's like the 90% of reality that we don't really need in order to do the things that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And there is like the Valier system, you have John Keel's system with the ultra terrestrial. There are definitely ways to spread that logic out, right? And that's what esotericism is for. That's what it is it's to approach the sort of limits of given logic and given meaning, and try to extrapolate outwards and probe and explore outwards to do a sort of experimental sense making of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And people that do those things are in danger of becoming alienated or marginalized, because in order for, let's say, a highly complex civilization or society to even work, you have to sort of marginalize or push to the edge all of those things that don't really fit into your system that you've created, the logistics of your of your empire, of your village, of your town. It's once you get to a certain level of sophistication, you can't worry about if there's a fairy mound, or I mean, you could, but you can't worry about if there's like a fairy mound here, or like there's some kind of underground, there's some kobold layer here. You can't be thinking about those things all the time, because other civilizations and societies that aren't thinking about those things they're going to conquer you.
Mm-hmm.
You have some exceptions like Iceland, where they will reroute highways around all kinds of sacred sites, but that's Iceland. It exists under, of course, the umbrella of another empire that doesn't think about those things.
Yes, I think that makes sense. And a lot of people have a model where fairies and modern aliens, these cryptid beings, are guardians or custodians of non-local memory. And I think that makes sense because a lot of people's testimony is that they were taken to this bizarre place and given information, a big information download, a big dump where it's like, man, I don't even know what to do with that. But it seems like there's these beings, ethereal beings, that want us to know that it is there. So I guess in terms of like what kind of function these beings could serve in the system, you mentioned keeping us from being too materialized. And I like that because you would think that the Uber system would have a series of safeguards to keep itself running how it's designed to operate. And it probably acknowledges that man can get really obsessed with the material, and potentially our oligarchical leaders get vested in making us more materialized, because that's where their wealth and power comes from, is us operating in that wavelength. So you could see a safeguard in the system where UFOs are just injected every so often to be like, hey, there's more here than what you think. And it's like a breadcrumb for the mind. Can you believe it, people? A video clip and a peek into how that sweet THC sausage is made. For some people, I'm sure it's nice to put a face to the name, so I started making clips that are a little more YouTube friendly than the full show tends to be. Get the full show on any podcasting platform. I prefer to keep it audio only, so we have a more decentralized distribution for a controversial show, and also so I can edit out the ums and ahs and barking dogs and all the things that happen when a person records in their home environment. And then if you really like the show, you can sign up for THC Plus, and instead of 1 hour interviews, you get the full 2 hour interview for just $8. I think that's a better deal, more of a win-win than asking you to support the show by booking a therapy session or buying generic Viagra. It's getting weird out there, folks. So just go to the highersidechats.com or click the link at the top of any set of show notes and all your wildest dreams will come true. All right? All right.